Hi, my name is Ryan Lane, and welcome to my review channel. So for today's movie, I will be reviewing Morbius, starring Jared Leto and Matt Smith. Anyway, so this is a another Marvel movie from Sony that exists in that gray area of Sony Marvel movies and MCU movies. Anyway, so this film stars Jared Leto as the titular Dr. Michael Morbius. He's got, I forget what they called it, but he's got some blood disease such that he's super weak, and he has to, in what he opines at one point in a flashback to his childhood, as oil changes 3 times a day. Anyway, that he grows up to become a scientist, and he naturally, decides to, use bats to heal his condition. Yeah, it's kind of just revealed like that. There's no build-up, there's no what if we used bats moment in the story. It's just at one point, he comes back from a overseas trip to his lab, and the doctor's like, why are you using bats? And he's like, oh yeah, might as well tell you about this. And there's also Morbius. He's got this friend whom he dubs Milo, who, again, and this kid, he grows up into a gangster, sort of. I mean, the film, characters talk about his criminal past, and at one point, they joke, out of all of us, I thought I'd be the first to be in jail, opines Milo, but, yeah, the film never really displays any of his criminal activity. I mean, they show that he's rich, which is for sure, but they never show him, engaging in any criminal activity, at least, before, the second act starts. Well, let's start off with the positive. The action scenes. The action scenes are good. They make good use of slow motion. They really show off Morbius's vampire-like powers, from echolocation to super strength to agility. It's good. It's good. And the cinematography captures it pretty well. And that's kind of all I've got. I've sort of run out of positives. The film, the plot is by the numbers. It sort of just goes along from plot point to plot point with not much imagination to it. They do change some particulars, but it doesn't feel very good. And also, it feels like some plot points were let on the cutting room floor. Remember earlier I mentioned that overseas trip? Michael Morbius, he's been nominated for a Nobel Prize for, this amazing discovery. He made fake blood. And so, it's the doctor who cared for him, played by Jared Harris, he's talking about all these great accomplishments, and he invites Morbius up to the stage. And before he can get up to the podium, it cuts back to New York, and one of Morbius's patients is like, "You did what there?" It's really? Were you that pressed for time? You couldn't have shown him giving the actual speech? Because the speech is actually kind of important. It sort of highlights his dedication to science. Or, well, sort of. Again, he does engage in unethicalness with his, vampire bat thing, but yeah, and then let's also get into performances. So, Jared Leto, oddly enough, is arguably one of the weaker performances, because he is surprisingly flat. It's like he took the critique that he was too much of a showboat in terms of his performance style in films like Suicide Squad and House of Gucci, which I actually really liked, by the way. I liked his performance in that, but I understand other people didn't like his performance in House of Gucci. And to that end, yeah, he's just kind of flat. It's not horrible, it just, I don't know, not much personality jumps out from him. Oddly enough, Matt Smith playing Milo, he is the one who's over the top. And I'm like, oh, and at one point after a certain event occurs, it feels like his personality just completely shifts, and it's like, okay? And it's in terms, there's no real build up to this change in event. Maybe like one scene from his childhood, perhaps, foreshadows this and maybe his criminal dealings. But again, the film never visualizes his criminal dealings. It just exposits them verbally. And let's see, what else? Chemistry? Yeah, there's zilch. I mean, Jared Leto and Matt Smith, they failed to generate barely any chemistry, and Jared Leto with the character Dr. Bancroft, I mean, Morbius and Bancroft, they generate absolutely zero chemistry. I don't buy the romance between them. It's like, why are these two people attracted to each other? Yeah. And the film just sort of the film lacks energy. It goes from plot point to plot point with little room to breathe. Yeah, so... And it's sort of predictable at points. Like, at one point, a character... Well, actually, no. I will say this. One performance that I did genuinely like was Jared Harris. I really thought he was good. He didn't have nearly enough screen time to salvage the movie as kind of a doctor who cares for Milo and Morbius. But yeah, he doesn't get nearly enough screen time to help right the ship that is this movie. So yeah, with that in mind, in spite of some good action scenes, the film fails due to mixed performances, flat humor that doesn't really elicit many laughs, and by the number plotting. So with all that in mind, I will have to give Morbius 2 out of 5 stars. Anyway, thank you for watching. Have a good rest of your day.